Hey everyone, thanks for being here. We're 3 weeks in and just fire away.
Well, let's start off with your announcement today about the death penalty. Obviously, the governor has no role in signing execution warrants. We don't have the authority to commute sentences and such. Are you opposed to the death penalty, or tell me all about how this came about?
We just want to review the practices, and we worked closely with the Attorney General's office in this decision to issue this executive order and appoint this commissioner. The recent executions have been embroiled in controversy. I mean, the death penalty is a controversial issue to begin with. We just want to make sure the practices are sound and that we don't end up with botched executions like we've seen recently. I don't think that my personal opinion matters in this issue. We just want to review the practices and make sure that we are if we are conducting executions, that they're done as humanely and transparently and as consistently with the law as possible.
What kind of timeline are we talking about on
Mark.
this, Governor, like naming the commissioner? Who will do that? Will it be your new director of corrections or the Attorney General? How do you envision this plan of yours working?
Our office will name the commissioner, and we don't have someone in mind yet. It will not. Were you asking if the director of corrections would name the commissioner, or?
Yes.
Oh no, it'll be our office, and we'll probably work in conjunction with the Attorney General in naming that person.
I'm sorry. Was there a singular issue that prompted you to go this direction? I mean, was there something about how the state was executing people? We executed 3 last year. That troubled you, that made you want to do this?
I think that there was a pause on executions for quite a while because of the botched execution. I don't remember how many years ago, and then the inability to acquire the lethal injection drugs. And I don't think any of that was reviewed or studied in a thorough way when executions were resumed. And we just want to make sure that those steps are all taken.
Governor, is this
Yes.
report going to be made public? I mean, we in the media sued the state several years ago to try to find out, for example, where these drugs were coming from. Do you have plans to make the commissioner's report public?
I believe yes, but even if we didn't have plans to, it's law. It would be a public record, but yes, it will be public.
The more specific question is, when we have tried to find out where the state is getting the drugs to kill people, we have been told, none of your business. Took it to the Ninth Circuit. The Ninth Circuit said, strictly speaking, none of your business. Will your administration ensure
Yes.
that we know where the state
Yes.
is getting drugs?
Yes.
Governor, could you clarify what your position is on the death penalty?
I don't necessarily think that's relevant here. We just want to make sure that we're studying the practices.
So the people of Arizona probably have a legitimate question. They want to know where you stand personally on the death penalty. Can you tell us?
So she said that she's not going to tell you.
I know she said that.
Okay.
But
How many times do you want her to say the same thing over and over?
Don't make me use this boot.
Well, let's ask a related question with the drugs, which is the Department of Corrections, now DOCCR, whatever the hell they're called, has said, well, if companies' names are made public, we won't be able to get the drugs because they don't want to be associated with their chemicals being used to put people to death. Even then, you still believe the people of Arizona are entitled to know where those drugs come from?
If the state of Arizona is executing people in the name of Arizonans, Arizonans deserve transparency around that process.
Do you see the state resuming the process of executing inmates under your administration?
That is not up to me. It's up to the Attorney General. And we are conducting, or we're appointing this independent commissioner to review practices.
Governor, let's move on to your budget you rolled out last week. Republicans in control of the legislature and already preempted it by saying, let's do a skinny budget. They didn't react well the day you rolled it out. Earlier this week, when they got their first real public hearing, they said you were just poking the bear. So how do you think you're going to be able to work with this legislature? I mean, obviously what you rolled out didn't go over well with the Republicans. How are you going to mend that? they don't seem to be willing to work with you at this point. So tell us what your thoughts are on this whole process.
I have consistently said, not just since I've been in this office, but on the campaign trail, that I'm willing to work with anyone who is going to focus on the issues that matter to Arizonans. I believe our budget is a reflection of what voters told us they wanted in this last election. And we know that with a divided government, there has to be compromise. And I can guarantee you the compromise is not just going to come from the ninth floor. The legislature, individual legislators have told us they understand they need to work with us to get some of their priorities across the finish line. We're going to have to work together to find a budget that we can all agree on. I have the final say on the budget.
They have said, though, that, you know, some of the things in your budget, the school vouchers, ESA, is a non-starter. Absolutely not. They won't even consider it. So why is it in there? And you knew that.
The budget process is a process of negotiation and compromise. And what we proposed is a starting point.
Can we talk a little bit about how you are working with the legislature? And so, for example, have you met with the Republican legislative leaders more than once, and more than the, or can you compare that to how many times you've met with the Democratic legislative leaders and how it's going?
I've had probably equivalent number of conversations with both sets of leaders, and in those conversations, there's acknowledgement of needing to compromise and work together and tackle the issues that Arizonans are focused on. And I've been very clear that I'm not going to entertain conspiracy theories eroding Arizonans' rights. I said that in my inaugural address. I said it again in the State of the State, and I've said that in individual conversations with legislators.
So how much leverage do you have with the Freedom Caucus? These are the tough nuts to crack here.
Well, if they want to get any of their bills passed, they're going to have to work with me. I have a veto stamp in my office.
Governor, I'd like to
Yes.
Can you talk to us about what your phone call with Secretary Mayorkas was like last week? Is he going to come visit the border? What did you guys discuss?
Yeah, I believe we're working out details for a border visit from his office, from himself. And we talked about what I'm hearing from local leaders, what some of their issues are. So there's a potential that we're going to jump on a meeting with those leaders before he comes out here. And, you know, I outlined the issues that we're facing as a border state, and I think I continue to be encouraged by Washington's recent actions on border issues, and I'm hopeful that we can solve some of those.
Governor Hobbs, earlier today, Planned Parenthood had a press call where they said they're going to put together a list of requests for your office. Chief among them was the request to halt all state funding to crisis pregnancy centers. Do you have any idea how much the state is currently sending and funding to crisis pregnancy centers, and how would you accomplish ending that funding if that is a goal?
Our budget does end that funding.
Governor, a question about records. Okay. I'm trying to read you regarding these advisory letters that the state medical board issues to doctors who have problems, like one doctor took out a patient's ovaries without her consent. The administration of your predecessor, Governor Ducey, said these should be available online. Will you take action to make these letters available?
We're reviewing practices across all the state agencies, and my administration intends to operate with transparency, and so we're going to make sure that's being done.
Could you speak to the importance of these letters specifically for patient safety, let's say?
I don't have specifics about this specific issue.
I'd like to ask you a board question, if you don't mind. Today, State Representative David Cook met with Scottsdale's mayor about trying to help out Rio Verde. But on the broader issue of these wildcat subdivisions,
Yeah.
does the state have a role or a responsibility, either A, to help folks that may become, similar issues to Rio Verde, or to prevent future developments of these kind of wildcat subdivisions that circumvent the state's laws as it would in the 100-year promise on water?
Short answer, yes, the state does have responsibility there.
Let me come back real quickly to the death penalty, because there's one other issue. You're forming review from basically the time the person is sentenced to death to execution. But there've been a lot of questions raised about the fairness. We've seen a lot of data that somehow minorities are more likely to be sentenced to death, that they don't get the legal help they need. I don't see anything in your order to have anyone address the whole question of the fairness of the death penalty itself before it gets to the Department of Corrections. Why isn't that in there?
That's certainly a conversation worth having. I think the scope of this particular order is much more limited, and certainly would be willing to entertain further action on the broader issue of the whole process. Yeah.
Governor, first question over here, thank you. Two questions. This came up during the budget hearing on Wednesday. Can you clarify whether you think you have a line item veto power over the ESA number in the budget to strike it from the budget?
I don't know the answer to that.
No.
No.
Governor, can you?
Okay, one more question, please, thank you. Ruben Gallego is going to announce Monday he's running against Kirsten Sinema. Whom will you support in that race?
I haven't even thought about the Senate race. And as far as I know, Sinema has not announced her reelection.
Speaking of inter-party fights, if I could, Governor, you put a lot of energy, it would seem, into backing Steve Gallardo for the state.
I'd rather not talk about state party politics in this government building, so thanks.
Can you come down that stairs afterwards?
I'm having a little trouble with stairs right now.
So should we come up to your house?
No.
Mary Jo.
I wanted to ask, given the reception that your budget director got earlier this week, what do you think that bodes for how your agency nominees will be welcomed by the legislature?
It's unfortunate that the legislature has chosen this early on to be as frankly immature and unwilling to work with us as they have demonstrated. I think voters, and I've said this over and over again, voters have sent a strong message that they want leaders who are going to put aside partisan politics and tackle the issues that matter to the state. The legislature so far has not indicated their willingness to do that, at least not publicly, and it's unfortunate because we have a lot of tough issues to tackle. I'll continue to push the need to do that, and I'll continue to have an open door to do that because I think the voters of Arizona deserve that.
Is anybody using that open door?
Certainly, I've had many meetings with local community leaders who have not had necessarily a lot of reception in this building in the prior administration, and the issues that local communities are facing are issues the state needs to help address too, and there's a lot of ways we can work together to do that.
What about from lawmakers, particularly Republican lawmakers?
Not to date. I don't know. I don't see the scheduling requests, so I'm not sure what meetings people are requesting, but there haven't been, aside from legislative leadership, there hasn't been any.
Governor, you only need one Republican in each chamber. You got anybody in mind?
Not yet.
Governor, over the past couple of weeks, people in southern Arizona have seen these containers leave the border. The prior governor put them there. The prior governor agreed to remove them.
Yes.
But this is happening now. Are you concerned that you are getting painted already as somebody who is not taking action on what's happening at the border? And aside from what the federal government might do, are you coming up with a plan of what maybe the state can do with its resources?
Certainly, if I was worried about how I was being painted, I wouldn't do anything. But I wouldn't have run for this office. But here we are, and so yes, there are needs at the border, and I've talked about them during the campaign. I've talked about them in the first 3 weeks of my administration. We need to utilize state resources where they can be most effective, and it's really unfortunate that almost $200 million was spent on this shipping container publicity stunt. We're looking for ways to creatively repurpose the shipping containers that have been purchased by the taxpayers of Arizona, and how we can work with local communities to address their needs, getting federal dollars quickly in to address some of the issues with migrants in some of these communities, and we'll continue to push for those needs in Washington.
And what about busing? The former governor did it. I heard through the grapevine that maybe there's still buses running out of southern Arizona under your administration. Why?
I think we need to look at that practice and make sure that it's effective. It's something that provides support to those local communities. If we're spending the money to bus people, why not just get them to their final destination?
Governor, that's what one of your spokeswomen said is happening, is they get to choose where they're going, but is that in some ways a tacit admission that Southern Arizona border communities are overwhelmed by the number of folks that
I've never said that they weren't, and we're looking at how we can provide support and resources to address those issues, which the shipping container wall did not do.
Folks, we have time for one more question.
Governor, you know, with the visit of Vice President Harris, did you mention to her maybe it was a good idea, as you're the governor of Arizona, maybe visit the border since she was so close to the border?
Well, I know that wasn't the purpose of her visit, and these visits take a lot of execution to happen. And so, but I had already been in conversation with folks in Washington and with the White House about getting a visit. And so it wasn't necessarily something that I felt the need to bring up again. She was focused on this new transmission line, which is going to help us build a clean energy economy here in Arizona.
Just a broader.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
More time next time?